Hi, I'm Brittany, a neurodivergent mum and speech pathologist. This is Not Just Theories, where I share what actually works in my real, messy life. Because life doesn't follow a theory. Here's what I actually do. Hello, and welcome back to Not Just Theories, where we talk about what happens in my real, messy life. And speaking of my real, messy life, yesterday, halfway through a wash cycle, I spotted something weird in the seal of our front loader washing machine. Not a baby sock, like would be normal, but 2 tea bags. Actually, not just 2 tea bags. It was a whole box, 100 tea bags, soggy, and floating around with the clothes inside our machine. Basically, everything was being washed in tea and came out of the machine looking a lovely tie-dyed brown, which is definitely not something I would recommend unless you wanted some tie-dyed brown clothes that were just all of your normal clothes that you didn't intend to tie-dye. So I didn't know it was possible to make a cup of tea that I wouldn't enjoy, but there it was, the worst cup of tea that I have ever had. But that's life with little kids, isn't it? I realized afterwards my 1-year-old must have snuck the box in when I wasn't looking, either before I started putting things in the machine or while I was putting things in the machine. We keep all of our extra pantry items in our laundry cupboard because our laundry is in our kitchen. We're in a small apartment. So, it's pretty easy to just go to the storage part of the cupboard that's right next to the machine and just pop something across. I have found some tins of salmon in the machine before I've run it, but I didn't catch it this time and it was a mistake. So today's episode is coming forward on the schedule because if there's ever been a week to talk about laundry and how we manage laundry in our house, it's this one. I really need to start by mentioning Casey Davis and her book, How to Keep House While Drowning, because it has really shifted how I think about housework. Casey talks about laundry and how other housework as well is actually cyclical. So it's never really done. And that doesn't mean you're failing. It's just the nature of laundry. So before I read her book, I always thought I was behind if the laundry baskets weren't empty. Now, when I see the washing basket piled high, I remind myself, as long as everyone in my house has something clean to wear, I'm doing fine. We're doing fine. My system that we use now is 1 load a day. I know there's a lot of work out there where people have talked about laundry day. So they do it all at once and it works for them. I have listened to podcasts and read books about how doing laundry day is great because you actually do get done with laundry and you don't need to think about laundry for a whole week. And that works for those people and that's great. But because we live in a small mold-prone apartment, we hang clothes to dry. We do not have the space to wash an entire week's worth of washing towels, sheets, clothes in one day. So for us, 1 load a day is sort of small enough to manage and it keeps things moving. The other benefit of doing 1 load a day is that if I forget a load in the washing machine and then find it the next day, it happens pretty regularly. It hasn't been sitting for days. So that means I don't need to re-wash it. Because when you're washing your clothes properly, we'll talk more about that in a minute, it doesn't actually get that musty smell just from sitting in the machine for less than 24 hours. So if we tried to do something like laundry day and then I forgot the last load and it sat there for a few days, you then have to re-wash it, sometimes multiple times to get that horrible musty smell out. And I have done that in my life. Whereas moving to this 1 load a day, occasionally 2 loads, obviously when we get behind or if we're home for a full day on the weekend, moving to that system means that we don't have this problem nearly as often. Another thing that I've done to help make laundry a little bit more manageable in our house is that I have stripped it right back to the basics. So we don't sort lights from darks in our house. We don't buy clothes that need ironing. And folding is pretty optional. So for the kids, basically don't fold at all. Their clothes go into bins. So we have a bin for tops, a bin for pants, a bin for socks and undies. So it's quick and easy, and nothing's being folded just to be unfolded again the next day. Another thing that we do in our house that really helps us is we split tasks based on our preference. So I don't mind washing and hanging out clothes. I'd happily do that anytime, but I really dislike putting them away. My partner doesn't mind it, so that often ends up being his job. Even before kids, I was fine living out of a washing basket, and he was the one who preferred things being in their drawers or in the cupboards. So we lean into it. I do most of the washing. He does most of the packing away. Something else we do, as you might have guessed based on the story I told at the start, is that we get our toddlers to help. The 3.5-year-old's not so into it at the moment, but my 1-year-old is in a really big container phase. He loves putting things into containers and taking them out again. It's heaps of fun. So now he actually helps with the washing. Usually one piece at a time, in and out, giggling the whole way. Sometimes it's 3 things go in, 2 things come out. It takes a really long time. It takes forever. But he's so happy doing it. I actually usually get to drink a cup of tea while I'm supervising, which I really love when the tea is, in my mug and not in the machine. So, still learning on that one. Keep a closer eye on what he's popped into the machine. A really important part of this 1 load a day system working, avoiding those musty smells, is the learning that I did about laundry science. So when my eldest was a baby, I used cloth nappies for a while. And I learnt so much from the Clean Cloth Nappies Facebook group. Highly recommend anyone who's got any interest in laundry join this group, even if you're not using cloth nappies, because it has revolutionized our entire system of dealing with clothes and sheets and towels. It's the main reason, our front loader machine, despite we live in a mold prone apartment, we do not have any mold in the seal of our machine, and I credit it entirely to the learnings from that group. Basically, there are 4 principles to getting clothes clean. Which are heat, time, detergent, and friction. So once you know how all of those interplay, you can tweak your cycles. So thinking of those 4 things as going into like a circular pie chart, if you're a visual person, each of them, for example, contributing 25% of the cleaning. If you want to change one of those, so say you don't want to wash your clothes on hot because they're delicate, you need to increase one of the other 3 factors to still get your clothes to that, 100% clean idea. If you want to wash your clothes quickly, you want to decrease time, you have to increase the heat, the detergent, or the friction. So you start being able to play with those to tweak your cycles. So for us, our towels get washed on hot because, especially, like I said, mold-prone apartment, we want to kill all of the gross germs and things that end up on our towels, especially if they've been sitting there for a few days before we've washed them. And we usually wash our towels on 90 degrees. So we don't do that every time we wash our towels, but the benefit of washing your towels on something like 90-degree cycle, if you've got a front loader, is that same 90-degree hot water actually cleans your machine. So you don't need to do a separate drum clean cycle some other time of the month. You're meant to wash your machines once a month. Something else I didn't really know about until the Clean Cloth Nappies group. So we wash our towels on 90 at least once a week or once every 2 weeks. And then in between, we tend to wash them on a 60-degree cycle. All of this is in Celsius, by the way. Sorry for anyone who uses Fahrenheit. We use Celsius in Australia, and I don't know how the Fahrenheit converts. We wash our towels the rest of the time on 60 degrees. Clothes tend to get washed on a warm cycle, which is 40 degrees in our machine, unless they're really delicate and they're meant to go on a cold cycle. But my daughter's dance uniform was apparently meant to do that, and we destroyed it because I accidentally put it in our normal 40-degree cycle. It's really important to know what you're putting in the machine and what kind of temperature it can deal with. And if you are having to decrease that temperature, you're going to need to increase something else. You're going to need to use a more effective detergent or a specific detergent that works in cold water. You're going to have to increase the amount of time it's in the machine for, so don't press that speed button unless you really need the clothes out quickly. This is actually another reason why that one loaded day works better for us than laundry day. Laundry day only works with short cycles. And if you want your clothes to be properly clean on short cycles, then you really need a lot of heat in there. So most cycles that are less than an hour, probably, if you've got kids, you need to be putting them in for longer, probably. Kids are filthy. The clothes are much more heavily soiled than just grown-up clothes. So thinking about the soiling levels of the clothing and what you actually need to do, you might need to increase your detergent more than what it says on the box if there's more dirt in the machine. So yeah, really knowing how those 4 principles work, especially with kids, especially with toddlers. I mean, so many of the clothes we're putting into this machine have huge amounts of food or dirt in them, or paint, or just anything. And this is all so much more important once that soiling level increases, because you don't want to be hanging out clothes to dry that still have residual food in them. Those clothes just won't be clean. Sorry, went on a bit of a rant there about laundry science, but it's really interesting, and it's something that we think about a lot. I noticed as soon as I overload the machine, which means that the friction decreases because there's not enough movement of the clothes don't get as clean. So sometimes I am guilty of overstuffing my machine, but I notice that the clothes don't come out as clean. There's still a bit of a banana stain, or, some of those milk yellowing around the necks of some of my baby's onesies happens. Whereas if I do properly load the machine, which is meant to be around 2/3 full rather than like stuffed full when it's wet, there needs to be some space for things to rub against each other and create that friction to help get things clean. If you overstuff your machine, you're going to need to run your cycle for longer. You're going to need to run it hotter. You're going to need to add more detergent. So yeah, I think that this is absolutely revolutionary, because I was someone who just used to do what I thought was the eco thing. I would wash clothes on a short, cold cycle using an eco-friendly detergent. And to be honest, that was fine when I didn't have kids. My clothes weren't that dirty. I wasn't noticing that they had any residual smells or stains, because my clothes just didn't need anything extra to be clean. I did notice it on my towels though. My towels always used to get this weird smell to them, especially tea towels in the kitchen. And once I started knowing this laundry science and changing how I washed everything, that smell on those towels just went away. Not an issue anymore. So yeah, thinking about what's your use of the clothes, what clothes are going in there, and how much do you need to be doing longer cycles or warmer cycles, whatever. So anyway, once you're washing your clothes properly, you can forget them in the machine for a fair while without that musty smell developing, because that musty smell isn't just damp, it is residual dirt and sweat, and everything's still just sitting there giving that like mold something to eat, basically. So yeah, try it out. I've been surprised. Like, I think I used to imagine that if I'd left them in the machine for like 3 hours past when the machine finished, I started to notice that smell would develop. Whereas now I've left it more than 24 hours and the smell's not there. So give it a go. What do I want you to take away from this episode? Basically, laundry is cyclical, so it's not a moral failure if it's not all done. That one was a game changer for me. I used to see a full load of washing and a full basket of washing and feel like I was failing, especially, in those times where I wasn't out at paid work and I was just at home with my kids and I was there all the time. Like, how did I not get on top of laundry? I'm home all the time. I don't need to be on top of laundry all the time. It's okay if there's laundry in the basket. As long as the clothes that we need are clean when we need them, that's fine. We're on top of laundry. Living out of a clean basket, totally fine if that works for you. That's how I would live if it weren't for my husband. He doesn't like living out of a clean basket, so we divided and conquered. He packs away clothes if it's important to him. Even if you aren't on top of laundry doesn't define your worth. It's it can give. I feel like not everyone has everything together all the time, and it doesn't mean that you're not worthy. If you can, try and have clean clothes when you need them without having to constantly buy new clean clothes. That's really the aim. And if there's a period of your life where you can't even manage that and you just do need to buy some new undies so that you've got clean ones, that's fine. It's all about finding a system that works for you. So for us, that's daily loads. Other people, it might be laundry day. I think if you are interested in trying something like laundry day rather than the daily loads, the book that I'd recommend is, let me just check what it's called. It's called How to Manage Your Home Without Losing Your Mind by Dana K. White. I love that book for so many other things as well. It's definitely on my recommend list, but her approach to laundry is the laundry day approach. So it hasn't worked so well for me. I think it works well for people who use a dryer to dry their clothes, and for whom shorter cycles work. But yeah, give it a go, see what works for you. And then the last thing I want you all to remember is don't just check pockets for rocks, which is super important when you've got toddlers in the house. Also, check your machine for a box of tea bags. That's one of those things I never thought I'd say it before I had kids. Check your washing machine for tea bags, because you do not want to wash your clothes in tea. Unless you do. If you really want to have some lovely tie-dyed brown, naturally dyed clothes, this is a good way to do it. It worked really, really well. Highly recommend if that's your goal. I would love to hear about your laundry system. Do you swear by laundry day? Do you have a hack that saved your sanity? Or a funny story about your toddler helping? Come share it with me over on Instagram. You can DM me or comment on the post for this episode. I'm at Not Just Theories. I would love to share some of your ideas in a future episode. Thanks for listening to Not Just Theories. And remember, laundry's just laundry. You're doing great. Thanks so much for listening to Not Just Theories. I really appreciate you being here. If this episode resonated with you, the best way to support the show is to follow, leave us a rating or review, or just share this episode with someone else who you think might find it comforting or useful. I hope to see you back here soon.